I.A. Richards. He posits there are 4 types of meaning. There is sense, which is what a writer has to say. There is feeling, which refers to the writer's attitude, what he has to say. There is tone, which is a little different. How a speaker feels, not about what they're saying, but about saying what they want to say. And we'll talk about that. What does that even mean? Which I thought was an interesting take. And then there's the intention. It's like the aim of what's being said. Yeah, I think all of these things potentially could be present when you're analyzing a piece of writing. I think they all can exist in the same piece. Yeah. I will mention that this is very much the kind of like the, how do I phrase this? Not everyone uses this sort of feedback method. This is very much like a school of thought called like the new criticism. And not all schools of analysis are that.
I don't know it from, I grew up in the Midwest, Minnesota, Illinois, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. It was all new criticism. Literature and poetry.
Yeah.
All new criticism.
Yeah.
I moved to the East Coast. It's like, whoa, all these people steeped in the classics. And it's just hugely different.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, it's a lot, there's a discussion like how much do you consider like the history of the situation in which they were writing? Like if you have like a World War I poet, how much is that coming into your analysis versus do you just view the piece on its own? And like how much background do you allow to color, like how you're viewing it versus there's all kinds of ways to approach it, right? Yeah. All that to say that you may or may not find this sort of criticism applicable to when you're reading things, but I think they can be helpful to kind of consider and lead your investigation into a piece to kind of analyze it, see what's happening. And it's not even, I think, necessary to have right or wrong answers. I think it's more important just to kind of engage in the process of asking. You know, it's not really about right or wrong. It's about let's analyze it and kind of see where we end up. And maybe if we did it again later, we'd arrive at different answers, and that's okay. You know.
But this is all looking at the poem, the author's background.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could probably add it in if you wanted to, but the poem itself or the writing itself can also lead you to answers for these, you know. So I think maybe if it's okay with you, we can kind of go back to your poem a little bit and kind of just think about a couple of the lines.
Sure.
So again, I'll just read some of the lines that we mentioned already. It's like, the garbage truck came early this morning, bulky, smug, lights blinking, backup beeping, groaning and whining and blustering. Today, more noisy than ever. It rattled and creaked into positions, brakes squeaking. Okay, so even if we just kind of looked at that part, okay, if we had to look at the sense, so again, the sense is, you know, what does a writer have to say? So if you had to kind of approach it from an outside perspective, kind of hear it, just hearing it read to you, you know, what do you think the writer or the speaker is really conveying here?
At this point, I would say that it's pretty flatly descriptive in a sense, but picking up on the negative aspects of the noisy, it could be talking about, I'm making this up, how nice it is to have this service.
It could be,
which would be a different view of the same scene. So
yeah,
this person, as you said, is annoyed.
Yeah.
And therefore all of the negative aspects are coming out.
Yeah. I mean, you could have even changed the wording to make it like, you know, that first line, like, the garbage truck came early this morning. What if we started saying, like, thankfully the garbage truck came early this morning?
That'd be very different.
So there's a concept in speech called framing, which is where, very similar to this, you're providing the context so people know what direction to take things. So like, for instance, if someone asks you to go to a party and you say, I can't go, one of the issues with that is there's no framing. So if I invite you and you tell me that, I don't know how to interpret that. Do I interpret it as you want to come but you can't? You don't want to come?
I'm glad you asked me, but
I have but there's no frame. So I don't know what direction to take it. But if you say, oh, I wish I could, but unfortunately I can't come. Like, now you've given me like, I wish I could. So now you're giving me a frame. Unfortunately, you give me a frame. So now I know the direction. Okay. So
in this case, I think that would be over. I mean, if I were to say, gall darn, whatever, this morning, I just think that would be a little too much.
For sure. I think it all depends on, what are we trying to convey.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Like I said, dude, when I originally read this line, the garbage truck came early this morning, I got annoyance from that. Good. And everything else was confirmed throughout. So I think going back to our point, so like the sense, what a writer has to say, to me, what I'm getting is that the writer has to say that this situation with the garbage truck is annoying.
Yeah.
It bothers me. It makes a lot of noise.
Exactly.
Okay. Or maybe like the sense, I think maybe the sense even approaching it like a literal thing, what does the writer have to say? A garbage truck is here and it's making a lot of noise. Right? Which then would lead to the feeling, okay, so what's my attitude towards that? Well, all this noise is bothering me. I'm not happy.
Right.
It's frustrating. Okay. So then we get to this question about tone. Yeah. Okay. Which again is how a speaker, according to I.A. Richards, how does a speaker feel about saying what they're saying? And I think initially when I first read that, I was like, what does that even mean? It feels kind of convoluted. But then the more I think about it, like it does make sense. Sometimes, like I'll tie it to parenting. Like if you say, like, I don't always enjoy spending time with my kid. If you were to say something like that, it's like, but man, I don't want to say that. Because that's like, that feels contradictory. That sounds like, if you're a parent, you should always love spending time. It should always be, or you kind of have that ideal where it's like,
but if you're saying, I don't always enjoy spending time with my child, then you feel in the back of it, you're not saying that, but you feel in the back of it a little bit of guilt.
Exactly. So this is where I think tone comes in.
Okay.
Because you're saying the thing, like, man, sometimes it is very difficult for me to be around my kid. And me admitting that makes me feel bad. Makes me feel guilty. So this is where I think tone comes in.
Okay. That's so tricky. Yeah.
It's like the step removed from the situation. It's like, this is the situation. This is how I feel about the situation.
Well, I was trying in this to do the show, don't tell. Mm-hmm. So I was trying not to say what was going on or how I felt about it, but to still have it come through.
Mm-hmm. Because it's going to be there regardless. Whether you want it to be there or not, it's going to be there.
Okay.
Like, again, just by... When you write a poem, you're observing things. Mm-hmm. You're putting them down. You're telling your reader, out of all these things that you see in the world, I want you to see this.
These are what I'm choosing.
Even if it's neutral, it's not neutral. Mm-hmm. This is where it gets to the concept of like every poem is a political poem, because every poem is a choice. You're making decisions of what to include and what to not include. Right. There's a power dynamic here. Right. Okay? And it's also selective, because I'm showing you only what I want you to see.
But you can't avoid tone.
No. Because even if you choose to be flat, sometimes being flat is a conscious choice. So now you're distancing. And sometimes that's very effective in a poem, but why are you distancing? So that's that choice. Sometimes acting detached actually... I mean, look at like grief. How do some people handle grief? They They pretend like nothing happened.
Right.
They just go about their, which is
I'm fine.
yeah, exactly. Which is in some ways the exact opposite. It's a demonstration of the things are not fine.
Gotcha.
You know. So to kind of, if we take the idea of tone and apply it to this, and obviously we've only looked at like a small part of this.
Mm-hmm.
It almost comes as like, it seems like this complaining is almost cathartic.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You know, and I haven't read enough of the poem to be like, yes, 100%. But like, I'm thinking about, you know, when people complain a lot. Why do people complain a lot?
Yeah.
Venting. It makes people feel good.
Volcano.
It can make people feel good. You know?
Yeah.
And so like, we go so hyper focused on the details about this, how annoying this garbage truck is, that it's almost bringing a level of comfort.
I see. Okay.
Potentially.
Okay. Yeah, and that's not horrible.
Yeah.
But,
you know, but I say that also just to kind of give an example of how I would view tone in this situation.
yeah. There's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, the intention or the aim. So why are we giving all this detail about the garbage truck?
Right.
You know, we're vilifying it.
Right.
You know, so that could be the intention, to deflect negative energy away from myself and onto this other thing, potentially. It could be that I'm trying to create a sense of belonging with other people who connect with this idea. Like, oh yeah, garbage trucks are the worst. You know, like it could be that kind of that sense of community. You know, you know, and these are just kind of examples. I'm not saying you're doing this in the poem, but kind of thinking about ways intention kind of come across.
Right, friendship.
Exactly.
Feel the same way.
Yeah, we are social creatures, right?
Yeah.
We want to belong. You know.
Yeah.
Questions for me about kind of just applying these four concepts to your piece?
No. It's something I'll have to sit with, you know, to allow it to sink in. But I see the distinction between feeling and tone.
I want to maybe do one last exercise practicing this before I let you go, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Brought a very complicated poem today. Thank you. Let's see if I have it. I don't think I do. That's all right. I want to pull up a haiku. And this is haiku from Basho. I had not seen this one before. It's like, man, Basho's a beast. So I'll read it. People growing old, the youth of Ibisu makes them even older. Let's kind of look at I.A. Richards' 4 types of meaning here. If you had to describe the sense, what do you think the sense is?
You feel older around younger people.
Okay, cool. People feel older around younger people. Okay. So then we get to this feeling. What's the attitude towards that?
I think it's maybe wisdom a little bit. You know?
Wise. Do you think it leans more happy or leans more negative?
Well, I think it's more not happy.
Not happy.
But not horrible either.
Yeah. I don't think it's like angry. Yeah. But I think it's leaning more towards the negative than the positive. A next one, tone. Sure, fun one. How a speaker feels about saying what they're saying. So again, people growing old, the youth of Ibisu makes them even older. The tone, how a speaker feels about saying what they're saying. I think there's almost like a realization aspect to this.
Yeah.
There's like a sun-like spark, like wow.
It's like standing back and looking at it and saying, "Oh, let's notice this."
Yeah. Yeah, like if there's a sense of like, huh, or like kind of caught me off guard, like slight surprise.
Awareness.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Okay. Does that kind of help with tone? Because I know originally when we mentioned this definition of tone, we're like, what does that mean? But like, are we starting to kind of get an idea of, you know, you're good. And then the intention being the aim.
The aim to make a point.
To make a point, to help other people maybe come to the same realization.
Mm-hmm. You notice how you don't say people growing old, the youth of Ibisu, whatever that is,
I think it's a
makes
town,
them
city.
even older. It doesn't say makes them feel even older.
No, they literally become older, yeah.
Littler.
Like it actually,
yeah.
young people actually age you. Yeah.
Yeah, jeez. Don't talk about kids.
Yeah.
What is Ibisu?
We can find out. I believe it's either a town or a province, but we can find out. He's from Japan.
Sounds like an island.
Might be. Looks like it might be a. It's a district in Tokyo.
In Tokyo. Okay. Interesting. Talk about not new criticism, but I mean, look at this from a Japanese perspective.
Right.
Cool.